Yo, Darious Britt here, and today we're breaking down The Matrix. So the best way to learn story structure is to break down a ton of movies into their various story elements and study them like textbooks. If you want to be a good storyteller, you gotta study stories. So if you're not familiar with 3-act structure, you should probably check out my video I did on 3-act structure. Bam! Before you proceed any further, or else this breakdown may not make a whole lot of sense to you. If you have not seen the movie The Matrix, you should probably check it out first because this entire video is one big giant spoiler. So let's get to it. The total runtime for The Matrix is 2 hours and 16 minutes, and we go into Act 1. So we get things popping with a hook. We get plenty of action as Trinity clears out an entire room full of cops and narrowly escapes from the agents of the Matrix. So this opener does a couple things for us. 1, it grabs your attention. 2, we meet Trinity, we get introduced to one of the characters. 3, we are introduced to the antagonists, which are in this case the agents of the Matrix. 4, we start setting up the rules of the Matrix right off the bat. And 5, we get a sense of the tone of the film. It's an action sci-fi and it's a little weird. 7 minutes into the film, we get our inciting incident. Neo, our protagonist, receives an anonymous message on his computer screen informing him that the Matrix has him. What's interesting about this whole setup is we're actually meeting our protagonist and getting the inciting incident of the entire movie at the exact same time. Usually we meet our protagonist first and we set up his whole ordinary world with his routines and yada yada yada. So even though, we had the inciting incident happen right now, but we still gotta go back and set up the ordinary world, and that's exactly what they did. Neo's some sort of computer hacker who sells data on the black market. He follows the White Rabbit and goes to a club with his clients, meets Trinity for the first time at a nightclub, and we find out through a somewhat steamy interaction that Neo has been obsessing over one question, and that is, what is the Matrix? We pretty much get the idea based off of their exchange that he's been obsessing over this thing. And he's got to find out what it is. That's part of his ordinary world. This is also the beginning of the B story, which is a love story between Neo and Trinity. Neo works a dead-end job at a software company that he can't seem to stand. He gets chewed out by his boss for being late repeatedly. He gets a package with a mysterious phone and it gets a call from said phone by Morpheus, who tells him that the agents are looking for him and he's got to escape. We get our refusal to the call of adventure when Morpheus tells Neo to get on some scaffolding to get away from the agents. But of course Neo chickens out, resulting in the capture by said agents. The agents interrogate Neo about his relationship with Morpheus and then put this weird little spider bug tracking thing in his belly button. But then later on when he meets Trinity again, they remove the spider out of his belly button with some weird looking crazy sci-fi ass device looking thing. 25 minutes into the movie we get our first plot point, which is the climax of Act 1. Neo finally meets Morpheus in person and Morpheus offers Neo 2 pills. If he takes the red pill, he learns what the Matrix is and what it's all about. If he takes the blue pill, he stays in Wonderland and goes back to his ordinary life. Neo of course takes the red pill. As Morpheus and the rebel crew track Neo's signal, Neo starts hallucinating like cray-cray before waking up from the Matrix into the real world for the very first time. You could say the central tension of the first act, or the story question for the first act, is will Neo meet Morpheus and find out what the Matrix is, or will he turn away and go back to his ordinary life? And this point is kind of hammered at repeatedly in the first act because he's given plenty of opportunities to turn back. But all these bizarre experiences that are happening to him with the, belly button bugs and whatnot are kind of preparing him for this journey to discover what the Matrix is. When Neo finally does meet Morpheus, that's the climax of Act 1 because that was kind of the story question for Act 1. Will he meet Morpheus and find out what the Matrix is? So Neo's awakening into the real world marks the end of Act 1 and shifts the plot into an entirely new direction, and this is where Neo's journey in the story actually begins. We got Act 2 happening. Now we're entering the first part of Act 2, which is the fun and the games. We get to watch Neo learn what the Matrix is and learn how it works and react to all this crazy cool stuff and all this sci-fi and all that. Yeah. Neo's naked body is picked up by the Nebuchadnezzar and the crew rehabilitates him. He's never used his eyes or his body for the first time, so that's kind of cray-cray. Neo meets the crew and Mouse. I never really liked Mouse. Morpheus takes Neo into the construct and explains what the Matrix is and how it came to be and what its purpose is, and it's around to make us into like some nice neat little Duracell batteries. There's some product placement for you. Neo doesn't take this info well, barfs all over the ship, which is already pretty dirty looking anyways. Watching Neo react to what the Matrix is, Definitely fun. How would you react? Neo learns how to do a lot of stuff in the blink of an eye, like how to do karate and fly a helicopter and shiznit. Neo trains with Morpheus inside of the Matrix. As Morpheus explains the rules of the Matrix, we get a cool fight scene in the iconic super jump scene. Of course, Neo fails for the first time and everybody's kind of like, oh, I thought he was the one. As a result of this failure, Neo learns an important lesson, that if you were killed in the Matrix, you die in the real world. That's how you up the stakes, ladies and gentlemen. It's not just a game. It's not just a game. Next, we see the Squiddies for the first time, threats that the crew must face in the real world. We learn that the only really effective weapon they have against them is an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse, which will destroy them. This is definitely a setup for payoff later. Cypher and Neo have a nice heart-to-heart where Cypher shares with Neo his distaste for the real world and how he wants to get back into the Matrix. Of course, this sets up the C story, which is Cypher's mission to return to the Matrix, because he doesn't like it. He hates it. And he hates Morpheus too. Cypher strikes a deal with the agents to hand over Morpheus in return for his re-entry into the Matrix. God, I hate this guy. That's all called setup, guys. While we're having our fun and games, we're planting little seeds that are gonna burgeon into just nice hot piles of conflict in the second part of Act 2. That's good writing. Morpheus and the crew re-enter the Matrix to take Neo to see the Oracle. As this happens, Cypher leaves a tracker for the agents to find. The filmmakers could have easily chosen to leave this little detail out, but of course they wanted to show us that phone and that trash can to build up suspense for the eventual betrayal that we know is coming. Look out, guys, it's not good. So ladies and gentlemen, it's about an hour and 12 minutes into the movie. That's about the halfway mark. What happens at the halfway mark? Looks like we got a midpoint happening. BAM! Neo meets with the Oracle and she tells him he's not the one, and not only that, she's got some bad news for him.
One of you is going to die. Which one will be up to you.
So apparently this would be a twist. Or a surprise. The whole first half of the movie we've been building this Neo dude up to be the one, and then we find out that he's nothing special. That's a great midpoint. That's good writing. All this new information kind of changes the dynamic of the story just a little bit. So now we're entering the second part of Act 2. This part of the story is all about the complications and the stakes being raised. So things are just going to go wrong and keep going wrong because we're going to build to this big false defeat moment. As the crew leaves the Oracle spot to exit the Matrix, Neo has a deja vu. The crew discovers the Matrix has been tampered with and they've been trapped. Complication. The SWAT team and the agents close in on Morpheus and the crew. Morpheus sacrifices himself so that Neo and Trinity can make a clean escape. That's a complication. Morpheus definitely gets his ass beat by Agent Smith and then gets himself captured. Complication. Cypher exits the Matrix and blows away Dozier in tank. So this, ladies and gentlemen, would be when the C story, which is Cypher's mission to return to the Matrix, comes to a climax, and it is definitely impacting the A story. Then this little bastard kills APOC and Switch, which, to be honest, I didn't really care because I didn't really know the guys that well anyway, but dramatically speaking, this is a bad thing. Cypher then gets himself blown away by Tank, and we're all happy because we didn't like that guy. The agents then begin torturing Morpheus to break into his mind and steal the access codes to the Zion mainframe, which is the last remaining human city. Pretty big complication. The crew considers killing Morpheus. So at 1 hour and 33 minutes into the movie, we have our all is lost moment. Morpheus is being captured and his mind is being hacked, half the crew's been blown away, and the Zion mainframe codes are at stake, which means the last remaining human city is at stake. And they are now considering pulling the plug on the Morpho. That's a pretty big defeat. 1 hour and 35 minutes in, we have our second plot point. Neo realizes that the Oracle had predicted this exact situation and he decides to go back into the Matrix to save his mentor Morpheus.
What are you doing?
I'm going in.
No, you're not.
I have to.
He's starting to believe. So Neo's decision to jump back into the Matrix after Morpheus is what kicks us off into Act 3. So 1 hour and 38 minutes into the movie, Act 3 starts. Neo and Trinity arm up for war. Morpheus holds on for dear life, but time is running out. From 1 hour and 40 minutes on, it's one big giant long climactic sequence. Neo and Trinity blow their way through the front lobby of the building Morpheus is being held in. 1,000 bullets and an explosion later, Neo and Trinity face off against an agent on the rooftop and steal a helicopter. 2,000 bullets later, they save Morpheus. More explosions. Morpheus and Trinity escape the Matrix, but Neo's left to face off against Agent Smith. This is when he starts believing, of course, he's the one. More bullets, more punches, more kicks. Smith gets hit by a train. Neo runs from the agents in an attempt to escape the Matrix. But of course, it can't be that simple. We gotta raise the stakes. At the 2-hour mark, the Sentinels find the Nebuchadnezzar and begin carving their way inside. If Neo doesn't get out of the Matrix in time, they'll have to fire off the EMP, which will of course kill Neo because he's still inside the Matrix. So now we've got a little ticking time clock device running, which is great for suspense. Neo's gotta get out of the Matrix in time for them to fire this EMP blast. If he doesn't get out in time, they've got to fire the blast anyway to kill the Sentinels, thereby killing Neo as well. At the 2-hour and 2-minute mark, we've got our Act 3 twist where Neo is gunned down by Agent Smith and he appears to be deader than a doornail. We have our B-story climax, which is the love story between Neo and Trinity. Trinity states that the Oracle told her that the man she would fall in love with is supposed to be the one, so you see Neo can't be dead because she's in love with him, and A plus B equals C, so that means he's the one, I guess. Then Neo comes back to life miraculously, reborn in the Matrix. He's completed his character arc and his transformation into the one. Then he proceeds to start kicking ass, jumps inside Agent Smith and makes him blow up all crazy like, and then exits the Matrix just in time before they fire off the EMP blast that kills the Sentinels. What a ride. Resolution. Neo threatens the computers. He's gonna free the world by showing them the impossible. Then he flies off like a boss. So in my opinion, there are a few things working really well for this movie. Number one, it has a high concept idea that is extremely relatable. We can all relate to existing, and this is a movie that comes along and says, hey, you know that experience and that thing we called life and all of your memories and everything that you know about life? What if it was all just one big giant computer simulated dream? Say what? It's a simple yet fascinating concept that doesn't take much explaining before people are able to imagine the possibilities. I mean, you can just spit it off in one line. Hey, what if everything we're doing right now wasn't real and it's all a dream? That's high concept for you. Great mind-bending concept. And number two, it offers a great power fantasy. We have the typical kind of underdog story. We can all relate to feeling ordinary and wanting to be or do something extraordinary. And this film offers the opportunity to live vicariously through someone else and have those desires kind of fulfilled. And numero tres, there is so much action in this damn movie. Like literally every 10 minutes something exciting's happening. Even when we're setting up the ordinary world and just giving you kind of the exposition that you need to know to watch the rest of the movie, they managed to set that up in an engaging and exciting way where there's always something happening, something going on. And number four, this point kind of harkens back to just the traditional writing guidelines and rules, but Neo works as a protagonist. He is proactive and his choices are what drive the story. It's Neo's choice at the first plot point to take the red pill and not the blue pill that kicks us off into Act 2. And at the second plot point, it's Neo's choice to go back into the Matrix to save Morpheus that kicks us off into Act 3. Well, that's all I got for you. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like or subscribe. If you've got any questions or any comments, you know, you can get a hold of me on Facebook or Twitter. There's my links right there, and yeah, let me know if you like the movie The Matrix. I know it's old now. We got like 2 other Matrix size out or whatever the plural for Matrix is. If you broke it down in a different way, you leave me some comments. Let me know what you thought, and that's it. D-Britt out. Today we're breaking down How to Train Your Dragon. Break it down, break it down. So if you're a filmmaker or a screenwriter and you want to tell good stories, you have to understand things like story structure, character development, yada yada yada. The best way to learn these concepts